Dramatic ending in Cavs Nets shakes up the East standings, and the Clippers, without Paul George, get it done against OKC. Crazy night in the NBA. Big news. LeBron James, the protest. The Suns are not happy with officiating. Plus, to the injured players that could shake up the rest of the season. The most power rankings. We'll do it all today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, everybody. You made it through the week. Welcome to another episode of Locked On NBA with the latest and greatest from around the association. I'm Tony East from Locked On Pacers. He's Adam Mares from Locked On Nuggets. We got a lot to get to today. 4 interesting games in the league, 2 that stand out. First, Paul George's game for the Clippers, and a miracle for the Cavs in Brooklyn to shake up the Eastern Conference standings. We'll get to those. The big news around LeBron maybe returning, maybe not, depending on who you believe. I think I would believe LeBron James, but we'll see when we actually get to that. And the injured players who could shake up the West race down the stretch of this season. Let's start with, after all that LeBron talk, Isaac Okoro, Adam Mares, who saved the day for the Cleveland Cavaliers in Brooklyn. Big game, surprisingly. Tiebreaker implications on the line. The Nets in a skid. The Nets, if they lost this game, would have fallen to 7th in the East, and that's what happened because chaos at the end. Donovan Mitchell misses a free throw. It's tipped around. Isaac Okoro hits the buzzer-beating 3 from the left corner to get the Cavs a win. Big for the Cavs, not so good for the Nets. The Nets, Adam, really trending in the wrong direction since the trades, which makes sense, but a game like this really hurts them.
It does hurt them, but this game was incredible. I mean,
It was.
You're underselling it here, Tony. I can't believe this. With this game, and you gave some exciting highlights, but this was a 12-2 run in the final minute. In the final minute, this game, I almost turned the channel. Like, I was watching the game. I was like, well, there you go. Nets get a big win over Cleveland, whatever. And just the collapse that happened. I mean, Cleveland hit some shots. Some guys played well. Isaac Okoro, as you mentioned, an unlikely hero in that moment, which was a really cool moment for them. But I don't think a team comes back from 10 down with a minute to go. Teams blow 10-point leads with a minute to go. And that's exactly what happened in this Nets one. Disaster decisions. In particular from Mikal Bridges, who's been fantastic. I mean, he's one of the cool stories, of the post-trade deadline portion of the season and how good he has been. He did not look like a superstar in the final minute of that game, making multiple errors, missing multiple shots, and just not running the team in the clutch the way he needs to. And to me, Cleveland is elated. But if I'm Brooklyn, man, that one stings. That one hurts really bad.
It does. You get a turnover from Bridges, Finney-Smith, and Claxton all in the last 100 seconds of this game after they led by 8 late after a big 3 from Royce O'Neal. And then everything went the Cavs' way, and that stretch of turnovers were part of it. They also made literally every shot they took except for the Donovan Mitchell free throw that led to the heroic last shot from an unlikely guy in Okoro. And yeah, the Cavs, they're going to probably finish 4th in the East. They're talented. They have had a good season. I think this one makes it pretty clear that they'll lock up 4th. The Knicks also lost tonight. But for the Nets, their season, they don't have, their first goes to Houston this year, I believe. They need to be in this postseason field for quite a few reasons. And look, I don't think they're really going for it after the trade deadline, but this would have been a big win for them. So to lose it and look at the standings and be in 7th now is tough.
I think you are going for it. And I mean, who knows what Brooklyn's long-term vision is? I think they are in the exhale period still from the previous era, just kind of letting the air out. But I do think that you look at that and just think, well, every team wants to be in the playoffs. And if their long-term plans are to build around these guys, then you want them to have playoff experience. If your long-term plan is to sell off these guys and try to start another rebuild, in earnest, you want these guys that can prove hey, look at Mikal Bridges. He's a role player, but look at how good he is. He's these other things you haven't seen. A la Jeremy Grant, perhaps. He's got more to his game, and he's already an elite role player. Cam Johnson, obviously, as well. Spencer Dinwiddie. You got guys that maybe you're excited to kind of shop around. So a collapse, 5 straight losses here is tough. And, now they're on the outside and they have to outperform the Miami Heat down the stretch, whereas before they had a nice cushion.
Yeah, say what you want about what they're trying or not trying to do this year, but I think 42 minutes for Dinwiddie, 34 for Claxton and Bridges. They're trying to win right there.
Man.
They're clearly going for the wins, going for the postseason this year, and that's a tough one. That's a tough one to drop when you've been playing well.
Real quick, one trend, though, across the NBA, and these two teams sort of exemplify it. really good starting units that like have a lot of talent, have some guys you're like, man, those are a lot of good pieces. And then benches that you just kind of question. I don't know what a trick or treat lineups like. I don't know what we're getting tonight from Lamar Stevens, from Karis LeVert. What are we getting? The good one or the bad one? Same thing goes for the Brooklyn Nets, who just have some guys that you like when you like them, but when they're off, you're like, what does this guy do?
Yeah, Cavs now 5 up on the Knicks with 9 games they have, I can't do math. They have 7 games left. That's about as safe as it gets in terms of playoff seeding. And yeah, the Nets in 7th now. They're pretty far ahead of 8, 9, 10, but still need to get some wins. 5 straight losses. The longest losing streak in the conference. Yes, that is longer than the Detroit Pistons right
Wow.
now. To the other coast, Adam. Another big game in the standings. Huge game in the standings, selling it short. These are 2 critical games that happened in LA between the Clippers and Thunder this week. The first one, of course, Paul George had the 360 dunk and then got hurt later in the game. So my tweet about, oh my gosh, Paul George could have been interpreted many ways the following morning. But either way, Clippers start their no Paul George era of their push down the stretch. It sounds like, per the reporting, he'll at least be able to return at some point in early April, whether that's pre-playoffs or not is TBD. And, reevaluation is such a, I don't even know what the word is. It's not a real word anymore when it comes to NBA injury updates. But Kawhi Leonard, pretty good. 13 for 15. Bones Highland, as you know, your guy, crushing it. Clippers smoke the Thunder. They needed that one.
Well, I smoke him in the second half, get 38 points in the third, 35 in the fourth, and you mentioned it. I mean, Kawhi has been good. 13 of 15 is absurd, and he's a robot. He's in the zone. To go with 4 steals, by the way, 32 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds, and then those 4 steals. But Bones Highland, man, who's been on the shelf more often than not lately, he gets an opportunity to go tonight. 16 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, a plus 32, 4 of 7 from 3, and those threes were electric. Back to back to back, basically, 3 in a row. Look, man, we're curious to see what happens with Paul George's absence. How do you survive that? In what ways does your team change? Because that is a 2-headed monster of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. That's the identity. Then you got a bunch of wings around him. Do you have to change your identity now? Who gets moved up? I don't know if Bones Highland now is just in the rotation and playing every night, but he got a chance tonight after not getting chances for several games in a row. And boy, did he perform well.
Yeah, they might go with more Russ. A lot of the commentary from the Clippers writers were let Russ be Russ was back, and 24 points, 7 rebounds, 8 for 13. That's a good Westbrook game this season. He was good for them, right? That could be something they rely on. That's part of why you get him, is to fill these kind of gaps. Every West game, Adam, is just ridiculous now. Thunder win this game. They go half a game behind the Warriors for 6th. Instead, they lose and the Pelicans win, and now they're tied for 11th. That's out of the plan. It's insane how jumbled these teams are. So now all of the Thunder, Mavs, Lakers, and Pelicans are 36 and 37 with 9 games to go. It is just absolutely brutal how thin the margins are this season, right? Like the Thunder probably thought they had this. It's hard to beat a team twice in a row, but after, coming off their high, Shea has 30 on 10 for 15 shooting. Like Josh Giddey was solid offensively. To lose that game, that just given how the West is and the Clippers creating some separation, every game is just so massive between these teams.
The weirdest part about this, I mean, you mentioned all those teams that are tied. Minnesota is a half game up and Utah is a half game back. So let's add 2 more to the mix. And
right.
Then the Golden State Warriors, only 1 game up from those teams. So, like, you look at it right now, the Warriors can be the 6th or they can be the 12th seed in the West with just within 2 games. Within 2 games, they can climb or fall that much. So this playoffs, man, I'm pro and con. I'm going to be grouchy here since my team, the Denver Nuggets, is sitting atop the Western Conference. I'm going to be a grouch here for a second. It's wild that the 12-seeded team has a realistic chance. I think we've solved the problem of tanking. I mean, we've got our tanking team.
We have not. We have not.
We haven't solved it. There's always going to be tanking. But we've taken away from now there's only like 4 teams that are tanking instead of the 12 that you lose around the All-Star break. We only got a couple of those. But what we've also got is I think we've actually ruined the regular season, because why play all these games when it doesn't matter? Just enter the final month of the season. Oh, we're the 12 seed? Sweet. Let's just go on a little win streak. We'll be the 6th seed by the end of the month. That's what we're seeing right now. And it makes me a little uncomfortable how good some of the teams are that have not tried and have coasted throughout most of the season and now might get rewarded with a pretty decent seed.
Yeah, I'm less sympathetic to that in the West this year. My big gripe with the plan has always been that they got rid of that rule about being within a certain number of games. that always like that made a lot of sense. Like, why should a team be rewarded? Like the Spurs last year, right? When they were like 10th, but didn't want to be 10th and got smoked. Like no one cared about that game. This year, at least, like the Jazz, as it stands, are 1 game out of 8. Like it's not like that much different. If you hated the old system, sure, but like that's not that ridiculous. Whereas like in the East, the Nets are in 7th and they're 39 and 34, and then every team below them is under 500. It's like why do these teams even deserve to be in the postseason at all?
So true, man. So true. Again, the Chicago Bulls can knock out the Miami Heat in the play-in. It's so weird.
I like the play-in as an idea, but I think it should have been maybe like 6, 7, 8, 9 or something instead of what it has become. But yeah, the tanking part is a big part of it. That said, I cover a team that is on the fringe of the play-in tanking race, and I've had fans in my comments and mentions saying that they should just forfeit the rest of their games. So tanking is definitely not solved at this stage of the NBA. Something they certainly have to figure out as the season progresses. Let's move on that note. Lots of news this week in the league. LeBron headlining Thursday's slate. There was some reporting about him that he immediately was like, no, that's not true. We'll cut through that. The protests from Warriors, Mavs, the Suns not happy with officiating as they have been a few times recently. Before we do that, though, we're diving into Lakers stuff. Let's talk about the 2023 Nissan Ariya, one of the new electric vehicles from Nissan. We got to identify, Adam, our most electric player of the week, brought to you by Nissan. How about the guy that's been getting hour-long highlight videos from the NBA on their channel, lighting it up for the Lakers, none other than Austin Reeves. His last 4 games for the purple and gold, 25 points, 4.8 rebounds, 6.5 assists per game on 57% shooting, 25 points on 11.5 shots. It's pretty dang impressive stuff from Austin Reeves. He's been brilliantly fierce, fiercely elegant, stunningly powerful.
I feel like we need to pay Nissan back for making Austin Reeves the guy here. I feel like we owe them back. We can't charge them ad money for this. Come on.
I would say Austin Reeves has earned this, Adam. He has been excellent.
It's so electric
for the blue and gold. He has delivered on duality, I would say. A combination of fierceness and elegance that has helped the Lakers win some games. The 2023
so elegant, Austin Reeves.
The 2023 Nissan Ariya packs pin-you-to-your-seat power and premium intelligence all in one electric vehicle. The all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya, the electric vehicle for people who love to drive. Shop now at nissanusa.com. Thanks, everybody, for making Locked On NBA your first listen today and every single day. Jump on over to Locked On Nuggets next. Hear from Adam and Matt more about the top seed in the West, who's not a team that ever has newsy headlines, does not fall into these play-in discussions. They just do their thing, and Jokic takes over games. Let's start with the LeBron stuff. Weird day. Reporting from everybody, presumably from 1 or 2 sources, that LeBron could return later this season, has ramped up his on-court activities, could be back in the regular season, maybe the playoffs. Interesting, noteworthy for the Lakers. They would like to have him back because, he's pretty good. And then, Adam, LeBron James tweets himself and says, there wasn't an evaluation today, and there hasn't been any target date for my return. I'm just working around the clock every day, parentheses, 3 times a day, unparentheses. All right, Jimmy Butler. To give myself the best chance of coming back full strength whenever that is. God bless y'all sources. I speak for myself. So, this is not breaking news, but LeBron James says he's working hard to come back and has no target date. So that's a very non-update from LeBron, although all of the sourced insiders say late season would be the goal there. That would be big for the Lakers. At the same time, it's not really sure if that's a real thing.
This is a weird story, as you mentioned. And I feel like we're in a weird era of media where my immediate instinct went to this. There have been several times when a report has come out about a player has denied that report, and then it turns out that report was right. The player just didn't want to get out that way. They're like, well, I had this whole article written, and I was going to do that, and then we were going to do the thing, and you ruined it. And my first instinct was, does LeBron have like a show coming up that he wants to announce he's returning or something? Is that why he's playing this whole, hold on, everybody, tune in on Tuesday to find out more? And so I don't know. The whole thing is that this wasn't reported by one person. This was reported by multiple Lakers reporters and NBA reporters at the same time with much the same wording. and citing a Lakers, the Lakers are saying this. So for LeBron to deny it, it's not like this just was what is it, Ball Sack Sports or whatever. It wasn't like Ball Sack Sports got people. This report clearly came from somebody trusted by all the trusted sources, and then LeBron shits it down. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just on Dave McMenamin, who's plugged in with the Lakers like crazy in Woj's report, but they just said he could return to play in quote a few unquote games. Like it's not like they even put a target date in there. So maybe one of the reports said something about a reevaluation, but it seems like everybody was hazy and LeBron just didn't want to put any expectations on it, I suppose. And yes, there's a lot of
We're in conspiracy mode, Tony?
we
Because
are.
my first thought was does LeBron want to announce this on his own? And then my second thought was maybe LeBron's not sure if he wants to come back. Maybe LeBron doesn't want to be on the court when the Lakers are eliminated from playoff contention. So he wants to look around and see, like, hold on, are we making it or not? If we're not, then I'm not coming back. I mean, again, I don't know. It's just this is where we are with the NBA. When there's not actual reporting, then all we're left with is this stuff, this insane WWE soap opera where we all have to like read the tea leaves.
On one hand, I'm inclined to believe LeBron James talking about LeBron James. On the other hand, I, like you, have seen the sources versus player debate end up on the sources side many times. So
LeBron is not the best source of LeBron information, if we're being honest. He's not always the best one.
Certainly kind of reflective of what the NBA is at the moment. We'll see. His returning would be huge for them if they're still in the hunt. I mean, they're 7-5 without him since the injury. Like their trade deadline stuff has worked out well for them. We'll see what that actually matters to be. But yeah, certainly odd. Speaking of the Western Conference, let's jump over to the Suns really quick. They just played the Lakers. So this is a very natural transition. 46, Adam, free throws for the Lakers in that game. 20.
That's a normal amount, right? That's like a normal amount of free throws for a game.
Yeah, the Pacers, who I cover, I think averaged 23.8 free throw
Oh
attempts.
my God, double the average amount of free throws.
A little over half of what the Lakers attempted in this game. Monty Williams says, where do you see a game with 46 free throws for one team? That's just not right. I don't care how you slice it. It's happened to us too much. I will say the Suns do foul a lot. They're up near the top of the league in fouls committed. Sure, that is a lot of free throws. I agree with Monty Williams that is a lot of free throws.
Well, I mean, as you have so many elegant players, as you mentioned, like Austin Reeves, the elegance of the foul drawing. In all sincerity, I mean, this has become a topic of conversation today. I don't remember who it was that tweeted out the foul rate of the Lakers compared to the rest of the league. They outshoot opponents. They win the free throw attempt battle, number one in the NBA. And if you, again, put on our conspiracy hats here, if we go from the last 6-7 weeks of the season, they've actually dominated. They're shooting, I can't remember what it was, over 10 more free throws per game on average more than opposing teams. So part of me looks at this and I go, look, man, it's a weird trend that you lose LeBron, one of the best foul drawers, and yet your foul rate skyrockets here as we're trying to make it into the play-in. Very curious. But then there's another part of me that looks at this and goes, if you had to pick the top whiners in the NBA, if you lined everybody up, Chris Paul, pretty high on that list. He's on the Phoenix Suns. This feels like a whiny team whining about things. I don't know which side to take here, Tony.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Another contextual part to add is Monty Williams just was upset about foul calls on his team against Giannis like 10 days ago or something like that. You know, again, they're 27th in the league in fouls per game. Like they do foul a lot as is. And I get the Lakers differences, but like also like if you're in the bonus early, guess what? The other team's going to shoot a lot of free throws because you foul a lot. Like that's part of how this works. So I think 46 is a lot. And I think you should, you have reason to be upset. Like I think that's the most I've seen this season. But at the same time, like a lot of people who cover the Suns were kind of like they're fouling a lot. So it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. What side are you taking on this? Are you pro Phoenix or pro Lakers on this this complaint?
I'd have to watch every foul to truly determine, but I watched a lot of that game, and I would say I'm probably on the Lakers side here, which is very crazy for me to say.
Oh, you're a man who prides yourself on your elegance, so you.
When I can gas up Austin Reeves, I have to do it, Adam.
Gotcha.
The Mavs and Warriors, officially the protest going in. I believe Shams reported that today. A lot of people roll. Mark Cuban confirmed it to McMahon of ESPN last night after the game. For those somehow unaware of this later date, weird play. Third quarter of Mavs Warriors, about a minute and a half to go in the third. The ball goes out of bounds, and the ref signals it's Warriors ball, and then immediately points to the Mavs side of the court.
What?
Because it was the Mavs calling a timeout, but it kind of looked like it was signaling the ball was going the other way. And it was also a timeout, so Jason Kidd probably called up an offensive play, and the Mavs go down to their offensive end of the court, but the ball went out on the other end, and then the ref gave the ball to the Warriors, and Jordan Poole threw it into Kevon Looney, who dunked it for 2 points. And guess what? The Warriors won by 2 points. Mark Cuban said that the ref said it was Mavs ball, which maybe so. There were some confusing things. I think the PA announcer said Mavs ball. They pointed that direction. Also, though, the ball would have been inbounded under the Warriors basket either way, so I'm not sure why the Mavs went to their end of the floor no matter what, but still weird. Also weird that the ref gave him the ball. This is where the Mavs' biggest complaint was, that no one told them to, like, come back and play defense. Warriors got 2 free points. Kevon Looney joked that he was thrilled because he got his double-double from that bucket. But either way, Mavs protesting this. I doubt, because of how much time was left in the game, that anything comes of this. Like, a whole quarter happened. Like, maybe it mattered, and it's certainly weird. Like, there's a reason we're talking about it. It's very weird. I doubt the protest goes through, but it's one of the most obscure calls I've seen, I think, this whole season.
I have 3 thoughts on this. Number one, I don't know if you've seen, but many people are calling this the Cuban whistle crisis. It's too perfect.
That's very funny.
Very, very good. Number two, I think this was actually a double mistake by the referees. One, not clearly communicating this. But number two, you go back and watch it. Like, why were the Mavs on one side of the court? Why were all the Warriors on the other? Why would the referee inbound the ball seeing this and being like, hold on?
Yeah, that's the weirdest part, I think, is that he actually gave Poole the ball.
I think the referees not only screwed up in communicating the calls properly to the team, but they also just forgot that the Warriors were going that basket and thought that the Warriors were going to dribble the ball up the court. And so when they hand the ball in, they didn't realize that they were setting up, the Mavs to give up an easy point. I think that's part of the equation here. Double mistakes. And then number 3, the reason I am very pro Dallas in this example has nothing to do with what I think is right or logistically best. It's what makes the most fun, entertaining outcome. We currently, as you mentioned previously, look at the Western standings. Everybody has the same record. Everybody's tied. If this thing has to come down to the final night of the season, and Golden State has to fly to Dallas to finish 12 minutes of a game, and that game determines everybody else's seeding and matchup in the West, that's the best possible outcome. Would that be the most watched 15-minute game in the history of the NBA? Absolutely, yes. It would. I'm rooting for it. It's too good for us not to root for it.
The cool thing, too, is that dunk made it 90-87. So presumably if that's waved off, it would be 88-87 Warriors lead. Ooh. Mavs ball for 14 minutes of play with important seeding implications on the line. That would be pretty cool. Yeah, I agree with you that there's a lot of weird, like, everything's weird, but the weird part too is like when you watch it from one of the opposite baseline view, like Jordan Poole's like, hey, give me the ball. Like, they knew, the Warriors knew what, so I don't, I've never seen anything like that before. Maybe I haven't, I don't remember, but it was very weird from like everybody except the Warriors, I guess, who just were prepared completely for some reason. So I doubt this protest happens. I think the last one was like 2008 with Shaq fouling out, but actually not fouling out. And then they replayed the last 50 seconds of that game, and the result was the same. And they only replayed it, I think, because the two teams involved were playing another game that night. So they played 50 seconds and then reset and then played a full game. But I guess I don't know anything. We'll see.
Does Adam Silver like money? Play that game. The day after the season, play that game. Put it on prime time. It's a 30-minute special.
Have some company that specializes in fixing mistakes sponsor the game, and it's just we're here to market for the league. We got to close out with power rankings. It's Friday. Most important potentially returning injured player down the stretch in the West, because there's a ton. There's, quite frankly, over half the teams still in the mix have a player potentially returning from injuries coming up. Before we do that, let's talk about Ibotta really quick. We're always throwing money at something. school supplies, house project, the list goes on. It's time to stop spending your hard-earned money without getting anything in return. Enter Ibotta. You can earn cash back on every shopping trip. They give you cash back on hundreds of grocery items from produce to personal care. Just link an account. It's that easy. The average Ibotta user earns $120 a year in real cash back that could cover an entire shopping trip. Or you can use it on anything else, maybe that you've been wanting, a certain restaurant, a flight, anything. Typical basket of groceries was over $50 more expensive at the end of 2022 than the beginning. Help get some of that money back with Ibotta, who gives you real cash back, not points. Other apps give you points. Ibotta doesn't. You can earn cash back on hundreds of online brands and retailers too when you start with Ibotta, like Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying. Sign up. Use the code LOCKED when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and use the code LOCKED. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use the code LOCKED. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen today and every single day. For your second listen, of course, I'm going to say Locked On Cavs. Big win for them tonight in historic fashion. And host Evan Dammarell was there in Brooklyn. He'll have everything you need to know on Cleveland's big win on the road. It's Friday. Power rankings here on Locked On NBA. So many key players yet to return, including the one LeBron we just talked about in the West race down the stretch of the season. We're power ranking them. Most important to least important, except we're doing it in the opposite order of what I just said. Adam, let's go. Throw them at me.
So I got a top 5 for you, and they're a very impressive top 5. But first, I have to give you the 2 honorable mentions. Steven Adams, a guy that makes Memphis whole, obviously adds that offensive rebounding punch, gives them a second big, which will come in very handy should they play, say, the Sacramento Kings or the Denver Nuggets. So he's a big piece, but he's not as big as the name. It's crazy that Steven Adams, usually he would make this list. The second honorable mention guy is even crazier. He just returned last night. Karl Anthony Towns missed 51 games. Now he's back, and yet somehow a superstar, number one player. By the way, it was impressive. Chris Finch in the closing moments of that game called Karl Anthony Towns' number for the go-ahead bucket, which is very, very interesting.
It worked.
And it worked. But somehow Karl Anthony Towns didn't crack the top 5 most important players not currently playing for Western Conference playoff hopefuls. We have 5 players that surpassed him even. Isn't that crazy?
Can I put Adams over Towns? You make fun of me? I think Towns is significantly better, like not even close. Like the Grizzlies' identity and style is just the possession ball. They try to have 10, 15 more shot attempts than you, and Steven Adams getting every rebound on both ends is huge for that. That's why they've been not very good without him. It
is definitely huge. Here's what I'll say about the Towns piece of this, because I've been thinking, Denver number 1 seed, they're going to play a play-in, whoever wins the second play-in spot. I keep thinking, is Minnesota? They're one of the most volatile teams to be in the playoffs because they're essentially going to be a team that has no scout. You're not going to be able to scout them. No,
That's true.
I don't think they know what they are, let alone does the Denver or whoever plays them going to know, like, hey, here's what we have to take away.
The best player they got at the trade deadline just played his first game with Cat ever, last night.
Right. So it's a very, very strange situation that they have, and I just think it makes – most likely they won't be very good. I think it's harder on the team integrating that player, but it also creates a chaos, and it just creates some challenges for whatever coach gets matched up with them in the first round, should they make it to the first round. All right.
Agreed. Top 5.
Top 5. Number 5, Zion Williamson. Can you believe this? Zion, I have no idea if he's coming back. I have no idea if the Pelican spirit is intact. They are currently 36 and 37. After, you remember, they were number 1 for a while. They were number 2 for a while. They were number 3 for a long time. Then they plummeted all the way down to 10. But yet, if you told me LeBron does not return and some of these other guys don't return, but Zion does, they vault up your power rankings of teams most likely to come out of the play-in. So Zion can completely change if he was able to return and be some version of himself.
They're 17 and 12 when he plays this year. That's a 48-win team. It's in the West this year is like one of the best teams in the West. So they're pretty good. He's obviously amazing when he's out there, just such a unique talent, and he's limited, sure, but I just want to see him play a playoff game, Adam. Is that selfish? I want to see Zion in the postseason, but yeah, extremely important. And for all the good stories about the Pels this year, they've been one of the teams that the vibes has felt the most off to me for a while now for many reasons. So Any jolt would be huge for them, and I think him and his talent returning, even if it takes a minute to integrate him, would be massive for the vibes of New
They've
Orleans.
won 3 in a row, by the way, the second longest streak in the Western Conference at the moment.
Wow.
But they were dead in the water, so that 3-game winning streak is actually pretty meaningful. And if he comes back, like I said, if you're a team like Minnesota or even at Dallas and you get New Orleans, do or die for you to get that final spot. They have Zion, you probably feel terrible about it. If they don't, you probably feel great. So that swings things quite a bit in my book.
They've done the play-in thing before. They won 2 play-in games last year, and then Booker was out, but did some stuff to the Suns. Like they're still threatening if he's back, especially.
Number 4, Paul George just went down. It's crazy, this list, that Paul George is number 4 on this one. Now, we mentioned that the Clippers did get a win tonight. They are tied basically with Phoenix right now for that 4-5 seed, even though they have different records. They're both at the exact same spot, 38-34 versus 39-35. I look at this and I go, I think it's very likely that those two teams match up, but whoever gets home court is very much up in the air. And if it's the Clippers and Paul George returns, I kind of like the Clippers in that matchup. As good as the Warriors can be, not getting a runway to work KD in and kind of figure out what your identity is, what's your closing lineup look like, who do you go to in the clutch, all of those things, not being able to work on that, and then going right into a team that's designed to switch everything, guard you, force you to become a one-on-one team, and then guard you with length at every position. To me, I think that's a great matchup for the Clippers. And if they get home court advantage, that could be a really bad scenario for the Suns.
Yeah, you just nailed exactly why I think PG should be high on this. Like their strategy in team building and in play is like, we have lots of giant dudes who are all the same size and can switch and be all over you at any time. Like I would probably say, I'd have to really think about this, but they're probably the most well-equipped team to defend a Durant in the
I agree.
postseason. Sure, Suns also have Devin Booker, but like that's probably the hardest matchup on paper for the Suns to get them in the first round to be tough, especially if PG's back. Like he's been killer in the postseason before. Like the year they made it to the conference finals, he carried them over Utah in that final game, even without Kawhi Leonard. I cover the Pacers, of course. I'm a little biased here, but like he's sick in postseason settings. If he's back, they've got a shot against anybody to me. And yeah, he's massive for what that team does.
Also has huge implications for Denver, since I think Suns are the toughest matchup for Denver. Clippers, the easiest of the good teams. Really pulling for that one. Next up on my list, number 3. You might think this is weird that he's ahead of Paul George, but it's Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins. Is he a better player than Paul George? Absolutely not. But I know you know this stat because it keeps coming up. The number 1 best 5-man lineup in the NBA is that Golden State Warriors starting lineup. That's the lineup that won a championship last year. That's a lineup that is so scary. And if you don't have it, that team's clearly not very good. Their depth makes the Warriors questionable for whether or not they could pull it off, even if they got with Wiggins back. But without Wiggins, there's a glaring hole on wing defense that they're sorely lacking, and they need him back. We're not sure if he will come back. But to me, the Warriors represent a team that can win the title this year if they get him back. If they don't, I'm not sure they're making it out of the play-in.
Yeah, if Steph, I think I'd get them out of the plan. Although they did lose with him in it before. Ready for some stats, Adam?
Okay.
Regular season Warriors with Andrew Wiggins, 66-44. Very good. Very good team. When he plays, that's like a 52-win team. Obviously, he was integral. He was awesome in the playoffs and the finals last year, right? Like, proving to be a postseason player was obviously making him more valuable beyond his all-star campaign. He's huge for them, right?
He's perfect for them.
They don't have the wing. Like Kuminga's been very important for them because they don't have anyone else who can do the stuff that Wiggins does. Having him back would be massive for what that team is missing. Like that's part of why they're so inconsistent, is like these bigger wings can just torch them. And there's a lot of those in the NBA now. And Steph is amazing and can be the best player who makes you question why you play basketball on any given night. But also sometimes they just don't have it. And if they have their full team, they can be amazing, but they haven't like at all the whole year.
Yeah. Number 2 on this list, Kevin Durant. Number 2, Kevin Durant. Phoenix Suns. He could easily have been number 1 on this one, obviously. When and if he comes back will be one of the major storylines in the entire season. I mean, the Phoenix Suns realistically are going to be 4, 5, or 6. I don't think they're going to fall past that. It would take an epic collapse for them to go into the play-in. I also don't think they're going to climb. I mean, they're 5 games back from the 3 seed. So very likely they're going to be 4 or 5 with an outside shot of 6. If you get Kevin Durant back to play 1, 2, 3 games, just get his legs under him, and then you go into a postseason where, as we mentioned earlier, not being able to have a scout on Karl-Anthony Towns, do we really have a scout on the Suns without Kevin Durant? And I have a feeling that, unlike the Minnesota Timberwolves trying to figure out how to play 2 centers, plugging Kevin Durant into a team of a bunch of ISO and pick and roll scorers is going to be pretty easy to do. Kevin Durant elevates and changes the odds for the title, and we're not sure if he's going to come back and what he'll look like when he does.
How long would KD have to miss for you to be confident he would not immediately be a 20-point per game scorer upon returning? Like, probably like 3 years.
He missed 2 years and came back and was exactly that. So
27. He was 27.
27. So I don't know, a decade. I think if he comes back at 40, I'll be like, I don't know.
Yeah, he like, I think this has been said a million times, but he's as close to plug and play as you can have for a superstar in the NBA as it is. So, yeah, there's kinks to work out. Like, everybody's getting less touches, but it might not matter. He's just amazing.
Number 1, I went with LeBron James. The guy
controversial.
If he's back or not. It is weirdly controversial because I think a lot of people could say Kevin Durant. But here's the thing. Anthony Davis has been playing like a monster lately. He really has been phenomenal. They've got a couple role players, whatever. If he comes back, LeBron James still, the last time, here's my thing on LeBron. He did not look great having to play the season all the way through. I think that his age, one of the things that's disguised about his age is that he no longer is able to play, it seems, 82 games. Physically, his body breaks down, as to be expected. He just got a month off. He's going to end up having like 2 months off by the time the play-in will roll around. If he is able to come back fully healthy, 2 months rested, and then sprint through the playoffs, I'm just saying we haven't really seen LeBron get beat in the playoffs. The last, especially in the first round or whatever, usually it's the finals, at least to the finals. The time we did, people forget this. 2 years ago, were they up 2-1? Do you remember, or was it 2-2?
They were up 2-1 when AD got hurt.
2-1 on the Phoenix Suns, the best team in the West. They were up on them. Then Anthony Davis gets hurt, and of course, the rest is history. But I just look at that and go, that Lakers team wasn't very good. That Suns team was phenomenal. And yet, a healthy and rested Lakers team looked like they were going to push them to their limits and maybe beat them. I think the same will be true of this Lakers team, flawed as they are. If you get a healthy, rested, and motivated LeBron back, good luck whoever's facing them in the play-in. Good luck whoever's placing them in the first round.
Stomped the Warriors in that play-in, too. Like, when they were healthy, they were beating good teams still that year, right? And that was a weird year too, because there was, especially for a guy like LeBron, what was he, 36 then? Like, there was no off season coming into that season. Right. And they played the bubble title and then had like 30 days off or whatever. And like, I hate to excuse anything, but that's hard, right? That was hard for every team, but especially hard for them in the Heat that season. I keep doing this. Let's look at the records this year thing, but the Lakers have a winning record. Shocking. When LeBron James plays this year, that's important. You know what else is important? He's played 2 games since the All-Star break, right? Like Durant, I would assume he clocks right back in and is awesome, and there's no real fit issues or anything. He's amazing, one of the best to ever do it, but that's not that many games. So any sort of ramp up that they can get in the regular season, I feel like they should take advantage of. But when he's old and heals a little slower, you got to be careful. So yes, I agree.
The FanDuel odds will be if the Lakers are in the first round against the Sacramento Kings. What does the series odds look like?
Oh man, Lakers minus 150, whatever that is.
Lakers play the Grizzlies. What is the FanDuel line
for the Lakers or just in general?
Just for the Lakers, I mean,
plus 300 probably. The Grizzlies would be favorites, I think.
Nuggets.
Even probably.
I'm just saying, like, here they are. All they have to do is make it in, and all of a sudden, like, your toughest rounds might actually come later in the playoffs. It's just wild.
Yeah, D'Lo's been awesome for them, right? Like, we could talk about LeBron and AD, and they're amazing, and they're going to be the drivers in the postseason. But like, they have a guy who can like dribble and help, and that's been amazing for them, and that makes them a threat to me in any setting. Like, D'Lo's pretty dang good.
There you go.
Great show today, Adam. Thank you, everybody, for listening to us babble about the latest and greatest around the association. Back on Monday, Jackson Gatlin with the local experts on the biggest stories in the league, biggest trends, all that. He always crushes it on the Monday show. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Have a special weekend. We'll see you soon.